It's a big newsy day here on India Today, in India and on 5 Live. With everything that's happening in Parliament, the extended debate on the women's reservation bill, all the news breaks right here on your favorite channel, India's #1. Also, the big fallout to Justin Trudeau's attack on India. All of that and much more right here on the show. I'm Shiv. These are the headlines. Sonia Gandhi demands OBC quota within the women's reservation bill, calls for urgent caste census. It's a big U-turn from what Sonia Gandhi had said when the UPA was in power. BJP hits out, says Rajiv Gandhi ignored OBCs, so why the duplicity from the Congress party?
पहली दफा स्थानीय निकायों में स्त्री की भागीदारी तय करने वाला संविधान संशोधन मेरे जीवन साथी राजीव गांधी जी ही लाए थे।
सोनिया जी ने अपने पूरे भाषण में न गीता मुखर्जी का जिक्र किया, न सुषमा स्वराज का जिक्र किया। ये किस तरह की राजनीति है? अपना क्रेडिट लेना चाहती हैं कि हमारा बिल है।
India Alliance bloc backs women's reservation bill in Parliament but will protest against delimitation clause. Union Minister Smriti Irani slams Congress for staking claim to the women's quota bill.
They say success has many fathers and failure has none. और इसीलिए कल जब ये प्रस्ताव सदन में आया तो कुछ लोगों ने कहा हमारा बिल है, कुछ लोगों ने कहा हमने चिट्ठी लिखी।
Kaveri river water war rages on. Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah and his deputy DK Shivakumar rushed to Delhi to meet with Union Jal Shakti Minister. In view of the growing anti-India activities and politically condoned hate crimes and criminal violence in Canada, all Indian nationals there and those contemplating travel are urged to exercise the utmost caution. This absolutely withering opening line of a statement that the Indian government dropped today amidst an escalating crossfire between India and Canada. It was issued by the External Affairs Ministry just a few hours ago. Not even for Pakistan has India ever used such strong, unsparing language. With it, the India-Canada relationship has descended to a very messy new low. And this angry new face-off is wholly on Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Forgetting that he's a national leader and not some petulant teenager who nobody is playing with, Trudeau has made the egregious error of letting his personal emotions shape a political comment, and that too in Canada's Parliament. If Trudeau's month has been bad following the G20 turbulence, this week has been a downright disaster. Not only have large sections of the Canadian political landscape, commentariat and press ridiculed Prime Minister Trudeau for jumping the gun and painting Canada into a corner with this allegation against India, even his allies, apart from the so-called Five Eye International Alliance, have artfully declined a ride in Trudeau's wagon of personally driven frustration. We now know that when Trudeau stood up in Canada's Parliament this week to name India in the assassination of Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar, he was at absolute boiling point. And we now have the full picture as to why. It turns out, viewer, that Trudeau spent weeks before the G20 summit in Delhi trying to rally Canada's closest allies, the Five Eye nations, which are Canada, the US, UK, New Zealand and Australia, to get them to issue a joint statement against India either before or during the G20. Not only did each of these countries ignore Trudeau's tantrum, they attended the Delhi G20 summit, as you saw, and made a big splash of their relationship and partnership with India. Biden and Modi's big joint statement, Albanese and Modi's viral selfie, and Sunak and Modi's most talked about bilateral. It was a rebuffed and ignored Justin Trudeau who arrived at the G20 to see his Five Eye friends indulging in total dosti with Modi's India. Trudeau must have decided right then that enough is enough. That's why he skipped the gala dinner at the G20 thrown by the President of India as well. The tragedy in all of this is that this friction was needless. India and Canada have largely positive relations, which may be invisible to you now. They have meaningful trade, a shared legacy of Indians, military and cultural exchanges, a large Indian expat student population, and so much more. The Indian military even today says it hopes what's happening is just a catfight because the relationship is much more substantive than what you're seeing in the media. Trudeau decided to push all of that aside in order to give vent to his personal frustrations over just a bad month. The thing about diplomacy is frictions and flashpoints can end as quickly as they've begun. But for now, in the wake of the Indian government's ferocious statement labeling Canada as a nation of politically condoned hate crimes, Justin Trudeau's sense of isolation must have increased manifold. He will need to calm down and deal with this rationally if India-Canada relations are to reflect their much more layered reality, and not be a hostage of an annoyed adolescent aristocrat who nobody wants to play with. Well, Justin Trudeau, as it happens, appears to have sort of softened his stand and claimed that Canada was not trying to provoke India by suggesting its agents were perhaps linked with the murder of Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. This after he received, like I said, no support from his closest global allies who wanted no truck with his campaign to defame and to demolish India. Take a look at this report.
The diplomatic war between India and Canada explodes. India has issued a hard-hitting advisory on hate crimes, urging Indian nationals and students in Canada to be cautious. The advisory says, and I quote, "In view of growing anti-India activities and politically condoned hate crimes and criminal violence in Canada, all Indian nationals there and those contemplating travel are urged to exercise utmost caution. Recently, threats have particularly targeted Indian diplomats and sections of the Indian community who oppose the anti-India agenda. Indian nationals are therefore advised to avoid traveling to regions and potential venues in Canada that have seen such incidents."
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing.
After his bombshell statement claiming credible allegations of a potential link between the killing of Canadian extremist Hardeep Singh Nijjar and agents linked to India, Trudeau finds little support either at home or abroad. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese asked journalists to chill out.
Justin Trudeau is a friend of mine. He's a fine Prime Minister of Canada. I was pleased to engage with him at the G20. He has expressed his concerns about this on behalf of the Canadian government, and the Australian Foreign Minister, Penny Wong, has also expressed concerns.
The US wanted Canada to complete the investigation and come up with credible evidence.
Frankly, I haven't seen any evidence to back up Justin Trudeau's allegations. That said, that doesn't mean evidence isn't there. However, the United States, through its silence, seems to imply that it is not on the same page as Ottawa.
And even after Justin Trudeau calling up the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak seeking support, UK insisted trade talks with India will continue. Visibly isolated, Justin Trudeau tried to furiously backpedal, saying his aim was not to provoke India.
We are not looking to provoke or escalate. We are simply laying out the facts as we understand them, and we want to work with the government of India to lay everything clear.
This after his shocking initial comment without investigations even being completed.
Over the past number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
The opposition in Canada slammed Trudeau for making such charges without presenting credible evidence.
I think the Prime Minister needs to come clean with all the facts. We need to know all the evidence possible so that Canadians can make judgments on that. The Prime Minister hasn't provided any facts. He provided a statement, and I will just emphasize that he didn't tell me any more in private than he told Canadians in public, so we want to see more information.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Modi was briefed on the current Khalistan threat in Canada. India Today has also learned from its sources that the Khalistani elements in Canada are planning to protest in front of the Indian High Commission on September 25th. Keeping the situation in mind, Indian diplomats have been asked to stay alert. India has also shared a list of 9 Khalistan-backed terrorist organizations. The list has been shared with Canada, New Zealand, Australia, the US and the UK. As Canada continues to stand with Khalistan extremists, the already sour diplomatic relations between the two countries have hit a new low, with India issuing advisory for its citizens to exercise utmost caution in Canada. Bureau Report, India Today.
Gaurav Sawant, our managing editor, who's been putting together the most watched coverage of the India-Canada face-off, is with me live. Gaurav, I don't remember seeing such a strongly worded statement in recent times, not even perhaps against Pakistan, politically condoned hate crimes, criminal violence in Canada, anti-India agenda, specific, calls for caution to the Indian student population. What's going on?
Shiv, the threat is very real to Indians in Canada, especially students, given the desperation of the Khalistani terrorists and terror sympathizers and Justin Trudeau government's inaction against Khalistani extremists. And Government of India is putting facts out in public domain. India has put out facts out in public domain today and yesterday. What was Canada doing? Canada was trying to shift focus away from the Khalistani elements on its territory to credible allegations of a potential link. I mean, this is the Prime Minister of Canada talking about relationship between two strong friends, India and Canada, in such language for political vote banks or political gains inside his own country. Incidentally, it's been happening for some time. The fact that Canada had reached out to the Five Eyes countries at multiple levels, at the levels of officials and ministers, and then at the summit level, and Justin Trudeau got no support from anywhere, and that's been seen with the kind of reaction that's come. Where is the evidence? The leader of opposition in Canada is saying, where is the evidence? And India has given evidence of terrorists and terror sympathizers and gangsters in Canada and Canada's inaction. So enough is enough. India has put out all facts in public domain. India is also not taking the, not lying down and playing dead, rolling over and playing dead. Very clearly, Shiv, this is only likely to deteriorate because now Justin Trudeau has painted himself in a corner. If he wants to win elections, he will continue to escalate. And this is a game of brinkmanship where Canada clearly is not coming out smelling of roses.
They're not only not smelling of roses, Justin Trudeau is looking beyond foolish. And I mean that with the greatest deal of respect. We all have friends in Canada. We all have a huge Indian population there in Canada, which we must never forget. So India Today will continue to report this story with a great sense of responsibility, because this is about the relationship between two countries, where their partnership goes back a long way. It's a layered relationship in many ways, and therefore the actions of the serving Prime Minister of that country have truly, truly jeopardized something that goes beyond just the Trudeau family. Well, the India-Canada flashpoint is escalating, but the latest to line up to snub Justin Trudeau is the American ambassador to Delhi, Eric Garcetti, has just spoken to India Today, and he has pretty much just snubbed Canada. He's refused to criticize India, obviously, just like the US State Department refused to do so yesterday, just like President Biden refused to do that when Trudeau had gone to him before the G20, and now the US ambassador to India, Eric Garcetti, says, don't jump the gun till the probe is over. The US ambassador saying Canada has jumped the gun. That's what Eric Garcetti has just told India Today. Strong message. Gaurav, diplomats, they make an art form of being able to say a lot of things without saying anything. The America-Canada relationship is an important one. So no one should expect them to slam Canada or criticize Canada. But the careful language being used by Biden, then the State Department, and now Ambassador Garcetti shows that the India-US relationship is an important one, and an old relationship like the US-Canada one, in many ways, the priorities are being shown.
Very clearly, Justin Trudeau, without sharing any evidence, appears to have jumped the gun, laying blame on India. And the US is also saying let investigations get completed, put out information and evidence in public domain, and then let it be assessed just on the basis of a potential link. and a credible allegation. This is not how heads of state and governments behave. But you heard, we'll hear Eric Garcetti in just a moment. And this is exactly, or on similar lines, there's been a reaction from the United Kingdom, from Australia, where Anthony Albanese actually asked journalists to chill out when this question was put to him. United Kingdom insisting that they will continue the trade deal with India and Shubh. This also goes on to show India's diplomatic clout, India's rising clout in the world, and the fact that India stands with the truth, and Justin Trudeau is only indulging in what prima facie appears to be vote bank politics in his country, and actually putting his friends in jeopardy. His friends are in an uncomfortable position, like the United States of America. The Five Eyes countries virtually in a difficult spot right now.
And I want to re-emphasize this because it's important, because as a responsible channel, we want to send out a message that India and Canada are allies. India and Canada have been friends for decades together. They share a very healthy relationship. But this particular flashpoint has been triggered by a frustrated Canadian Prime Minister venting his personal frustrations over what has been an extremely bad year for him in 2023, where his narrative has simply failed to take root not just in Canada but also globally, and most certainly here in India. Gaurav, thank you very much for getting us that. Let me give you some data, just to refresh our viewers' memory of how Khalistani hatred, violence has surged under the Prime Ministership of Justin Trudeau. Failure number one. In Canada, July this year, the Kill Diplomats plot. Remember when Khalistani terrorists took out posters, identifying Indian diplomats, putting out their photos, their names, and possibly even their locations, calling for them to be killed? Failure number two, Indira Gandhi's tableau depicting Indira Gandhi's assassination in Brampton. That was something that happened in June. This man, Justin Trudeau, said no apparent laws were broken and it was a peaceful protest. Failure number three by Prime Minister Trudeau. It happened in April in Ontario. A Hindu temple was vandalized by Khalistanis. Failure number four, in March this year in Toronto, the Khalistan army burnt the tricolour viral videos. No action taken. Failure number five, Surrey in March, Canadian Indians were attacked violently by a mob. Failure number six, in Burnaby in March, Gandhi statue was vandalized. Failure number seven, in Mississauga in February, a temple was vandalized. Brampton in January, temple defaced. I can go on and on. I'm stopping now, but there are so many more instances of how in each and every instance, Justin Trudeau has turned around and said, you can't tar an entire community for the actions of a few. But in each of these cases, no action has been taken. And therefore, ironically, like I said yesterday on my show as well, Justin Trudeau has actually insulted not just the Canadian Sikh community, but the global proud Sikh community. And they will be letting him know what they think.